Welcome back to the Higher Paradigm YouTube channel and podcast. I am your host, Laura, and today we are going to dive into a hot topic right now, and it is the current state of feminism. I just want to start off by making it abundantly clear that if you do not agree with my position on this topic, that is okay. I encourage you to keep an open mind, to hear me out. I encourage you, whether you consider yourself on the right or on the left politically, to be open on having your current position questioned or shifting, the lens through which you are perceiving all that is going on to shift. And if you are not open to that, and if you feel solid in your current position and what you believe to be true, I welcome that too. Trust you are here for a reason. Maybe there is just something you need to hear, but take what resonates and leave behind the rest. I encourage you to just hear me out first and foremost. I don't consider myself on the right or on the left. I find myself and my beliefs somewhere in the gray area, which I consider just to be the truth that I perceive, that I choose to align myself with. And it's proven to not always be in agreement with one side or the other or people. I have been met with adversity, especially on this particular topic, along with a lot of other hot topics that are coming up with our current climate right now, politically, culturally, and, just in our society, in our world. If what I share triggers you in some way, do your best to welcome the trigger. Your triggers are your teachers. So if you feel yourself being triggered into defensive mode or anger or confusion or doubt or fear or something, anything, welcome that feeling in and give yourself permission to check in with that and ask yourself, fear, why fear? Anger, why anger? What is being triggered within me right now? And why is it being triggered? There is probably something that you need to see within yourself that is ready to be met with. And I encourage you, as I always do, in everything that I do, everything that I share, every class that I facilitate, everything, I encourage you to tune in to whatever it is. Because if it is triggering, if it is coming up, it wants, whatever it is in need and wants to be acknowledged. I do appreciate healthy debates and discussions around any of the topics that I present, anything that I talk about here or on social media. I want to engage. I want to connect. So if at any time you would like to have that, I encourage you to go to the comment section and we can do that. Or you can private message me on social media if you want to have a private discussion or, whatever. So, jumping in a little bit here, the question I want you to consider throughout this episode is whether or not what we're seeing and or participating in terms of empowering the feminine, is it a reclamation of our power? Are we contributing to, participating in an actual reclamation of our feminine power? Or are we seeing, participating, contributing to the exploitation of the feminine? And another question I encourage you to sit with through this episode, and we will obviously dive into, is whether or not we are actually in support of healthy or toxic feminine, and how this relates to our divine feminine, and whether or not we are actually heeding the call to empower the feminine. Are we seeing and participating in expression of a healed or a healing feminine or a wounded feminine? So these are the questions I want for you to sit with and connect with throughout this entire episode. Does the patriarchy actually still exist? Or are we just spinning and regurgitating a narrative that has been played out for literally generations? Rather than focusing on the main purpose for feminism in the first place, which is, yes, equal rights, but it's also energetically the deeply sacred power it is to be a woman, and turning our attention inward to access our power rather than projecting it or looking for it outwardly. Rather than focusing on the main purpose for feminism in the first place, which is, yes, equal rights, it is also energetically the sacred power that is to what it is to be a woman. And having the ability to turn our attention inward to access that power rather than projecting it or looking for it outwardly through the ways that we show up in the world and express ourselves through this lens of the feminine, and also the targets and the projecting of who to blame and whose fault it is that we aren't empowered individually. Let's begin with an article that I found. It's Feminism 101. And it's on the Human Rights Careers website. So this is where I've taken all of this information from that you're about to hear. I'm going to try to keep it brief. I'll do my best. But I did want to bring this into it because we have an idea of what feminism is, including myself. I needed to get educated on what feminism actually is versus what I think it is. And it's not to say that what I believe or what you believe isn't a part of it, but I feel like it's getting skewed on the intention and the purpose of feminism. So, beginning this article, at its core, feminism is about equality of the sexes. So, the first wave of feminism came up in 1837 in France. The term feminism or féminisme and I'm sorry if I'm butchering that, I'm not French. In the original French, wasn't coined until 1837. Utopian socialist Charles Fourier was the first to associate the term with women's rights. So if you want to hear more about that, you want to read more about this, I encourage you to go to this article. I will leave the link to this article in the show notes in the description of this episode. The second wave of feminism, this is the one we know a lot about, is the one in the 1960s and 70s that started to shift with the civil rights movement, the fight for reproductive rights, the fight for equal pay. And this was in America. The third wave of feminism came through when Rebecca Walker, the daughter of Alice Walker, coined the phrase third wave after watching the 1991 Anita Hill hearings, where Hill, a lawyer, testified that Supreme Court nominee Clarence Thomas had sexually harassed her. The hearings drew attention to the lack of protection still facing women in the workplace and society at large. After Clarence Thomas was confirmed, a record number of women entered politics. The Riot Girl movement was also vital to third wave feminism. Feminist musicians began exploring topics like sexism, abuse, racism, sexuality, and more through their music. While the third wave was less cohesive than the first and the second waves, it built on what came before and emphasized the work still to be done. Currently, our current wave of feminism are very Western focused, so they don't represent a perfect encapsulation of feminism. In many places, women and girls still lack the basic rights others take for granted, such as the right to an education and full voting rights. Globally, women are also facing increased threats to reproductive freedom, even in places where progress has been won. In response to these worldwide threats, and with the help of new technologies and literature, the feminine of today is intersectional, inclusive, anti-racist, and multicultural. So, what 5 facts should everyone know about feminism? And this is important. This is important to my argument in regards to feminism. People have been writing books and articles about feminism and feminist ideas since the 1800s, but here are the 5 most important facts everyone should know. Number 1, feminism is not about hating men. Feminism, as it's represented in mainstream media, can seem like it's about hating men. There are countless jokes and memes making fun of men and claiming everything would be better if women were in charge. While this type of commentary is often an ironic response to the centuries of hatred and harm women have endured, it can muddy the definition of feminism. Feminism is not about switching the power hierarchy so women are in charge and men are beneath them. It's about equal rights and freedoms. When men have been prioritized for so long, any change can feel like an attack. But the reality is, feminism wants to make the things equal and fair. I have so much to say about this. Oh my gosh. Number 2, feminism has racism in its history. So what this means is, and what they go on to describe, which I won't get too much into, but I will share a little bit, is that back in the 60s and 70s, there was a split with the feminist movements. During the suffrage era, wealthy white feminists were only interested in the rights of other wealthy white women. They did not consider Black women equals. This trend has continued today, leading to critiques of white feminism. This is a type of feminism that centers the needs and goals of white women while ignoring the multifaceted oppression faced by women of color. Number 3, feminism wants to make systemic change. Feminism wants to address the cultural worldviews and everyday interactions that amplify and sustain sexist attitudes, but systemic change is just as important. Number 4, anyone can be a feminist. So it doesn't matter if you're male or female. It's not about man or woman. Number 5, the world still needs feminism. After the victories of the second wave feminist movement, many people believed we didn't need feminism anymore. The third wave was a direct response to this belief, but even today, some still question the need for a strong feminist movement. You only need to glance around the world to see why it's still vital. Reproductive rights are under attack. COVID-19 set back gender equality significantly. Women are leaving the workforce, and women perform 2.5 times more unpaid labor than men. According to the Global Gender Gap Index, there are still major gaps in political empowerment as well as economic participation and opportunity. No country has reached total gender equality. While some are experiencing declines, as long as there's still work to be done, the world needs feminism. Then this goes on to share how you can take action to support feminism. Donate to a gender equality organization. Educate yourself. Education alone doesn't change the status quo, but if you want to get more involved in feminist movements, you should understand its history, its major figures, its ideas, and so on. Focus on local feminist issues. Local feminist issues. While technology lets you give money to just about any organization in the world, you can have the most direct impact by focusing on local issues. No matter where you live, there will be something you can do to help improve the state of gender equality in your community. Volunteer or work for a feminist organization and support women in politics. Despite some progress in many countries, women are underrepresented in politics. You can take action by supporting organizations dedicated to empowering women in politics, voting for candidates with good track records on gender equality, and donating to female candidates who reflect your values. Okay, so that is the extent of that article, and I want to bring some of my values and beliefs about feminism and where we're at into this conversation now. Now that we have read what feminism is, how you can support it, and where my perspective fits into this. My beliefs and values rely on what I know to be true and not a political party. For instance, supporting women in politics. I don't believe that we should vote for a woman to be our president just because she's a woman. I feel like that is gender discrimination. When Kamala Harris was running, does that mean we should vote for her even though she doesn't appear to be or seem to be qualified or offer any promise? I mean, from my perspective, from what I know to be true, even about her, when we get off of mainstream media and we learn more about these political figures, these candidates that run for presidency or run in any position of power, political power, it is our job to learn as much as we can about them, and not just from mainstream media, because there's just so much to this, and I don't want to go into this about politics as much as I want to go into truth. But I mean, this is a part of it. I consider myself a woman who relies on what feels true to me in my body and what makes sense logically and critically to me. Give me the facts and I'm going to take it from there. I will not vote for a female in politics just because she's a female, because we need more women in politics. If the woman doesn't feel safe or there's sketchy shit that I'm finding out about her off of mainstream media, and I am talking about Kamala Harris. I'm only going to talk about this for a literal second because I'm digressing, but I do want to say, because it is important for us to be as informed as possible. If you are watching mainstream media, a lot of mainstream media, the journalists and the reporters and all those that contribute to the mainstream media are giving you one version of the truth, or not the truth at all. They're giving you whatever version those in positions of power want the public to know. They are paid by these people in positions of power, these politicians, the elites, however you want to say it. They are paid to spin a certain narrative. So just keep that in mind. I encourage you to do your due diligence as a citizen of this country and the planet, to go a little bit deeper and not just trust what you hear on Channel 2, NBC, The Today Show, or on mainstream media or on social media. Do your own due diligence to investigate. I prefer to follow and I trust the investigative work of people like, just as one example, because there's a bunch of different journalists, commentators that I do follow, but one great example, Candace Owens, because she dives in to get the truth. And her investigative work into Kamala Harris's history prompted me to be a little bit scared if Kamala Harris actually ended up our president. So I am of the mind where I will not just vote for a woman because she's a woman. Let's go back to not hating men. So the first fact about feminism is not hating men. I've seen other influencers sharing about how women are talking about we need to just get rid of them all the men. We need to castrate them. We need to just cut off their penises. This is very indicative to me of a wounded woman, a woman who has been she's just operating from pain and suffering and blaming all men for the relationships that she has experienced in her life, or not just relationships that she has experienced, but that she's seen others in her life all around her experience. This movement of single parenting by women who will cut out the man and go get pregnant from a donor so that they can single parent a child. And again, I feel like this is just showing us that there's pain and wounding that is playing out and deciding how we live our lives, how we think about men, and how we are raising our children. And what I know to be true and what I believe is that a child thrives with both parents in the household. And I'm not speaking to the woman who is in a position where there's not a man in the household and she is a single mom because that's her current situation. I'm speaking to the woman who purposely will not welcome a man or welcome a masculine energy into her world and into her child's world because she has this toxic belief that all men are bad and all they're going to do is bring bad into my life and the life of my child. There is so much that is needed from the healthy masculine that we as feminine also need. And of course, we as women, as men, we as humans, we both hold masculine and feminine energy. But women were not created to operate like men, and women were not created to parent from both sides. So again, if this is your current situation where you have to play both roles, I have such love and compassion for that, and power to you. You are an amazing woman. But if you're choosing this to play both roles because you're casting out men, this is an invitation to get really clear on your pain and your wounding with the masculine. A healthy feminine and masculine relationship looks like a good man. It is a strong man versus a toxic man. If we don't do the work internally to heal from toxic masculine wounding, then we keep calling in and we keep perpetuating these types of relationships. And that's what keeps showing up in our lives. That's what we keep seeing. That's what we keep experiencing. And then therefore, we believe that all men suck. But that's just not true. When we heal our masculine wounding and we heal our trauma, we open ourselves up to a world that once upon a time we weren't available to. Because when we heal, we set boundaries and we start to say, I'm no longer available for a man who is, or a relationship that is like this. I'm no longer available for being treated this way. I'm no longer available to have this type of man in my children's lives. And then when we start to set those boundaries and hold these values, then we can align ourselves with men who are better men and who are good men, not projecting our wounding onto good men, setting them up so that they, no matter what, are going to fail in your eyes. What I believe feminism is not is coming down on other women for their beliefs and values, even when they don't align with yours. If we are coming together in sisterhood, if we are coming together strong, united, it means that we can value and have love for you, regardless if you agree with me or not. And what I'm seeing and have experienced firsthand, when there's an opposing point of view from the majority, then there's always one or two or a bunch of who can't keep it healthy debate and can't keep a healthy discussion, but end up throwing insults and judging and mocking and criticizing you for having a different perspective. I do wholeheartedly believe and value empowering one another and empowering ourselves as women. And I don't believe that throwing insults or making assumptions about anybody just because they have a different belief than you do is in alignment with sisterhood, women's empowerment, and feminism. And I think it's just kind of disgraceful to get to this point where someone doesn't agree with you, so you are so defensive about it that you feel the need to just call them names. And you're not actually bringing forth a point of view that's missing the point, and it's not actually bringing us together. There is a way, there's got to be. I know we're so far away from this right now, but I have faith that despite our disagreements, despite our opposing point of views, that we are able to come together for the same cause. We all want the same thing. We all want to feel equal. We all want to feel welcome, accepted. We all want to be treated with respect. We all want to end the sexualization of women, of females. We all want the same thing. It's just that one person may think that in order to get that is we do it this way, and another person may think, no, that's not the way. I think we need to do it this way. And I think even if we say agree to disagree, and you know what, you're a woman, I have love for you, and even getting curious about our opposition's point of view, which is something I really try my best to do, is to just get curious about where they're coming from. That doesn't mean I'm going to all of a sudden shift gears, but I am open to changing my mind. And I think so many of us right now, we're being fucking stubborn as shit, if I'm being honest. And we have to be willing to change our mind sometimes too. And not just be stubborn for the sake of being stubborn, or fear of no longer aligning with a whole group of women who feel a certain type of way. So now you don't know where, you're going to fit in. I think if we just take that out of it and say, you know what? I'm here for unity. I'm here for equality. And there's got to be somewhere in the middle where we can meet, that we're going to both work towards the same thing. That's how I feel about it. I want to talk about abortion and the abortion rights, and it's a woman's body and all of that, because obviously we should have that sovereignty to decide what is right for us. And I do have a middle point of view on this particular topic, and it is that this is a devastating choice to make, no matter how you slice it. To get an abortion, to end the life of a baby, of a child, of a fetus, is devastating on any female. And any woman who says, it's not that big of a deal, you just take a pill and then whatever, you birth this ball of cells. As females, we have been created to birth life, and we are naturally nurturing. We are naturally compassionate. So if any woman is saying it's not that big of a deal, you just, expel a bunch of cells, then there's some sort of numbness going on. I don't believe we should be dignifying abortion or promoting it or saying it's okay. There are extenuating circumstances where an abortion might be the best option for the mom, for the woman. And I understand that. And it's still, in those extenuating circumstances, no matter what, this is probably the worst, one of the worst, most horrible experiences that one woman can have. So while I agree with human or women's rights and sovereignty over our own body, I do think it is our responsibility to get very clear on what it is that we believe about abortion and about women's rights, because we're not just thinking about the woman's body. This is also the life of a child. It's not about being conservative or liberal, in my opinion. It's about humanity. It's about love. That's what it comes down to for me. I don't believe feminism is exploiting our bodies and calling it reclamation or empowering. And we see so much of this on social media, but now we're seeing it in mainstream media with the French feminists who went out into the street to protest against fascism or whatever and exposing their breasts for the whole world to see. I feel like this is just perpetuating the sexualization of women. It's also saying that feminine is our sex organs, it is our breasts, it is our vagina. And so here it is. Let me show you. You have no power over this because I'm showing you my breasts. To me, it screams exploitation and it screams double standard, because if a group of men went out into the streets to protest some cause or protest something, whatever it is, and they were exposing their genitalia, oh man, would the world come down on these men? They would be labeled as predatory. They would be condemned. It would be an uproar. But it's just okay because they're women to come out exposing their breasts. And what is that proving? You're giving those that you are angry with, those men that you are angry with, exactly what they want. First of all, it just screams toxic feminine to me, because it seems like on the outside, it seems like this is really empowering. I'm bearing my breasts and I'm the one who's deciding. I'm the one who's going to show you, whoever that is. It's Trump, I think. I think it was Trump, because it was about fascism in our American government. And another issue I don't understand in particular with the French feminists, why are they doing this? They need to focus on their own government, because their leadership is a bunch of pedophiles and incests. There's a book called Becoming Brigitte, which is all about, I don't even want to get into it. Basically, another deep dive off of mainstream media. You can find out really disgusting information about the French leadership. And yet these feminine protesters are focusing on our leadership. Why? Why can't we just stay in our own lanes sometimes? I just don't understand. We're always focusing, even the people of our country, we're focusing outside of our country and on other countries and what other countries are doing and what we're doing for other countries or not doing for other countries. But we have so much we need to work on within our own country. These French women, why don't you focus on what's going on in your own country? What about the rights of the girls that are within the French leadership families? I raised the same question in a debate that I had. It started healthy and it ended up not. But I brought this up in this debate about why don't they focus on their own government and the pedophilia and the incest. And the response to that was, that's not the point of this protest. But my point is, why isn't it? In the world we live in today and the way things are panning out and truths are coming to the light about the Me Too movement, for instance, unfortunately, we as women have been duped. Our vulnerability and our compassion has been manipulated. And so therefore, it really is important to, instead of projecting and exploiting our bodies and calling it reclamation or empowerment, it's important that we go inward and just figure out and work through the reasons why, when we hear about these things happening with men in positions of power and the victims that are saying that they've been sexualized or abused or assaulted or whatever it is, these issues are heavy and they're dark and they're devastating. But if they are affecting you personally, not to say that you shouldn't stand in protest of whatever it is that you believe in. I'm encouraging that you stand truly empowered because you have done your work on yourself. You have worked through whatever these issues you're hearing about in mainstream media that are triggering you. You're working through what it is it's triggering inside of you. And you go within and do that work. You heal those wounds, your own experiences of being exploited, abused, sexualized, brutalized, whatever it is. And I have definite firsthand experience of this, working through for the last 5 years a childhood of being sexualized, sexually abused, sexually assaulted. I have gone through it too. And that is why I have this point of view where if you have experienced these things firsthand, you've been sexually harassed even, it is our duty as women to first go in and do the work internally so that we can stand outwardly in these positions of protest and standing up for women's rights from that truly empowered place, not operating from those wounds. We do our work so that we can truly contribute to the collective, to the greater good from that truly empowered place. That is what would do us all as women a huge service. And this is a good thing to do in regards to projecting and having debates in that right and left and like, I don't agree with you, so you are going into insults and name calling. Instead of insulting and name calling, going inward and asking ourselves, why do I want to be mean or nasty to this person who doesn't agree with me or doesn't agree with this side of things? I'm not saying reclaiming your feminine is not expressing ourselves with our physical bodies, because it is. It's just, what place are we doing this from and who are we trying to prove it to? You know, these feminists standing out with their breasts out, what are they trying to prove and who are they trying to prove it to? Is this actually healing? And I'm sure that there are some women that were in that group that this was healing for that former version of themselves that wished they could stand empowered in this way. But what I was sensing and picking up on and feeling was, as a whole, this is not empowering and this is not proving anything in the ways that are intended. And again, going back to expression of our physical body, there is a way to express and reclaim our physical sexuality for ourselves, not for the public, not for our government, not for anyone outside of us. Doing a self photo shoot, learning sexy dances. I've seen a lot of women feel a reclamation by being naked and doing a photo shoot. For me, I have done photo shoots and it has not been about showing more skin, but you know, to each their own. It's just, who are you doing it for? Are you doing it to reclaim your own power? Are you doing it to almost be performative? When we empower our feminine bodies, we do it for ourselves. It's not performative. It's not for anyone else. And when we come together in sisterhood and we decide to stand together in sisterhood, it is for one another while also making an impact in the world. And there is a difference, in my opinion, in coming together with one another to bring an impact into the world versus coming together to stick it to somebody. I don't know. That's just how I feel about it. And I hope that that makes sense. Again, if you disagree with me, that's totally cool. I would love to hear your rebuttal on that in the comments. Learning sexy dances, photo shoots, pleasure practices. These are all things we do to build intimacy and relationship with our own sexuality for ourselves. A political statement as a feminist does not require any sexualization, in my opinion. It is a courageous, unfiltered female voice that makes a true impact. That's how I feel about that. This behavior, I believe, does not set a good example for one another and for the next generation. I feel like women who can't take it anymore, who have had enough of feeling marginalized or discriminated against because they're a woman, when they see these portrayals of reclamation, I just don't think it does women as a whole a service. It's promoting more exploitation and sexualization rather than doing the healing work that needs to be done so that we can actually come together in sisterhood and reclaim our freedom. And the next generation, I mean, we want our girls to be empowered. We want them to speak their truth, use their voice, say no, have boundaries, all these things. But I don't know. What do they get out of seeing grown women with no shirts on? What do they? I feel like, again, it's showing them that it's okay to show your tits. It's okay to exploit yourself, to get a point across. You know, if my 6-year-old saw that, or my 11-year-old saw that, they might think, I don't know. I honestly think that the next generation thinks we're insane anyways. I don't know. So yeah, when I see this brand of feminism along with the castration and the doing away with men, all I see is a lot of women who are operating from past unprocessed trauma and pain, not a place of empowerment. A healthy example of a woman standing in her power that we can see is a woman owning who she is, her values, her beliefs, and saying, I cannot and I will not stand down from my belief systems in order to please or appease anybody. And I don't watch this show, but I did see it. I did see a little snippet of it on another podcaster's episode. There was this show called Love is Blind. I don't know how the show works and how they end up, finding who their mate is or who they want their partner to be. And they end up getting, going to the altar to get married. But these two particular women ended up going to the altar. And while I probably personally wouldn't wait to get to the altar to do this, this is also a TV show. The point is that these two women could not stand down from their own belief systems, from their own values, what they want out of a marriage, and how they want to have their partner hold the same value systems as theirs or similar, or else they could see in the future that this was going to be a detriment to their relationship. So they ended up not getting married. And I think that that's uber empowering, because instead of these women saying, well, I just need a man, I need security, I need that stability, and operating from this vulnerable love spell that we tend to find ourselves in when we're in the beginning stages of a relationship, which it very clearly that's where they were just getting to know each other, and that's how they came to discover that their values and beliefs don't align. And being a woman who's able to say to a man, I'm sorry, but no, thank you, because I have these beliefs and I have these values, and we do not align in our beliefs and values, and so therefore I can't do this. That is empowering. That is amazing. And that's what this is all about. Being an empowered woman is saying, if you can say no, if you can uphold your beliefs and your values as a man, then so can I. A healthy woman standing in her power in her own life, instead of saying, well, I didn't get that job because I'm a female and they chose a male, taking that rejection and offering you redirection and finding the divine guidance in it rather than the victimhood. It's not always about standing in protest of something. It is doing the work to heal our own feminine and masculine wounding. I believe healthy feminism is supporting women's rights, of course, abortion and all the things, but also being very clear on where exactly you stand. It doesn't have to be one extreme or the other. Where do you actually stand? Listening to your own inner voice, listening to your own inner truth versus what you're hearing from both sides of the fence. Creating healthy relationships with men, I very much believe, is a way to empower our feminine because we're created to have that dynamic with a male, a healthy male counterpart. And I think the feminine, a female, does benefit from having healthy relationships with men or the masculine in our lives. And when we go into and heal toxic masculine relationships or toxic masculine wounding, we can make room for those healthier relationships and not want to castrate or get rid of men altogether. Being willing to honor our feminine energy. So, what being a feminist means to me too is being and accepting what being feminine means. And we are not meant to operate like men. And that's not to say that women can't be upholding the same jobs or the same skill set or the same careers as men or doing the same jobs even around the house as men. But what I'm talking about is honoring our own feminine nature and our rhythms and our cycles. We do have a different internal clock, and being willing to say, okay, I'm going to delegate this task, not feeling that we need to be doing it all. Women are meant to move at a different pace than a man. And I think it's important that we come back to grassroots on all of this because that doesn't mean that we're less than. It does not mean that we're less than if we do not and cannot operate the same way as a man at the same speed or lift the same amount of weight or do the same jobs. That doesn't make us weaker or less than at all. We only have taken on this belief because of the conditioning that has been instilled into us through generations. And it comes from all these generations of women that came before us that had to be in the kitchen. That was their role, to take care of the kids, all this stuff. And then it like flipped a switch when feminism started and women were like, you know what? I can do everything a man can do. And I don't have to be in the kitchen. And that's not all I'm good for. And I'm not only here to raise my kids. But the truth is, women were created to be nurturers. And there's nothing bad or wrong with wanting to take care of your kids or wanting to cook or wanting to clean and wanting to slow down and wanting to take rest days and wanting to do things differently than a man. We have come so far away from being okay with our own makeup, our own energy. And now we are in this era of just because I'm a woman doesn't mean I have to have kids. But do you want to have kids? Or are we like just perpetuating this conditioning of, well, if I want to have kids, then I'm just continuing to be put in this box of what a woman should do. I mean, this is really complex stuff. Again, it requires like deep inner work. But I just want to say that because a reclamation of the feminine is so much of honoring our own nature and our own cycles and embracing that we like to take care of our children, that we like to be nurturers. Maybe it's not children, pet kids or whatever. Maybe it's that. Maybe it is the way that you show up at work. Maybe the way you show up at work is very nurturing, and that is okay. As a woman, we were blessed with our menstrual cycle. And our menstrual cycle consists of 4 phases. And there is so much beauty in embracing where we are within each of those phases that we need to come back to as a collective feminine. Being a feminist and operating from the feminine is setting boundaries and holding true to our power so others can feel it and know it is true. It is affirming yes or no. It is saying this is absolutely no longer what I'm available for, and standing true to your words. Honoring our sexuality, our unique rhythms, our flow, getting our hormones in check, and being willing to work through the trauma we may be carrying in our womb space, in our pelvis, reclaiming our voice, not becoming submissive. Again, this is not a regurgitation of the past. We're not going back into men rule the world and women are just meant to be in the kitchen. This is about owning our power while also embracing our feminine, owning that we are not going to be talked down to. We are not going to be manipulated or abused in any way, but we also can do that by still honoring our own unique rhythms. Not casting judgment, mocking, or spewing negativity at another woman just because she may not have the same point of view as you, whether politically or culturally. Being open to hearing their perspective and getting curious about their point of view in an effort to come together in sisterhood. That's the whole point, is operating from love and coming together in sisterhood. Not throwing in these key terms whenever see fit, like white privilege, fascism, patriarchy, and just getting very clear on what you actually believe. Raising the next generation of girls and women up. Feminism is recognizing the power we hold within us and expressing that out into the world through the lens of love and co-creation. And with that said, I pray that we can respect one another in spite of our differences of perspective and beliefs. I pray that we can be open to hearing and understanding opposing points of view. I pray that we take responsibility for and do our own internal work to heal what is contributing to the collective so that we can bring more of this healing, more love, more connection, more authenticity into the collective and contribute to it, which will raise the vibration, but also plant seeds for other women and also bring more of the healed feminine into the collective, which we all so much need. I pray that we can practice what we preach, and I pray that love can guide us into having more connection through understanding, listening, having compassion, and being honest from that loving place. So I will end this episode there. If you can hear me, I am raspy. I have been talking and talking. This was a long one. Thank you for being here. I, of course, as always, would love to hear from you in the comments below and continue a conversation around this. Share with me your point of view, even if it is in opposition of mine. And yeah, let's continue discussing this very important topic right now and bring more women onto this timeline of sisterhood and true feminism rather than continuing to play out this toxic feminism. If you want to follow me on social media, again, my Instagram handle is at sacredhealingwith_Laura. My Facebook business page is Sacred Healing with Laura. My personal page is Laura Potosniak. And if you are interested in diving into healing work in regards to the divine feminine, if there is internal work to be done around your own unprocessed trauma or wounding or pain, and you recognize that, and you're looking for support or guidance, as someone to hold the space for you as you go into this work, I am certainly here for you in that regard too. You can check out my website. I will leave the link in the show notes and see if what I have to offer speaks to you. And feel free to reach out to me anytime in regards to that, either through social media, you can DM me, or you can email me, which is provided in the website. So again, thank you for being here. I appreciate you. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Much love and many blessings to you, and I'll see you next time.